It's 1940 and Germany has already defeated Poland, Denmark, and invaded Norway. Now Hitler turns his eyes towards France and the Low Countries, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. France is at war with Germany, joining on September 3, 1939, alongside the UK. But they haven't done anything significant since. But Hitler has other ideas. You see, Hitler's plan is to defeat France as soon as possible, then get rid of the United Kingdom, and then expand towards east and take USSR's resources. Hitler planned an all-out attack on the Allies. France was defended by the Rhine River at the southern portion of the front line and needed fewer defences. The northern part is protected by the Maginot Line, a fortified line of defences built after the First World War. France and Britain have their troops prepared at the border with Belgium, being able to reinforce the Maginot Line if needed, or help Belgium and the Netherlands in case Germany was to invade. So, on the 10th of May 1940, the Battle of France begins. Germany's first move was to invade the Low Countries. But this attack was more of a diversion to the main attack taking place in the south. The real German force will move into Belgium and Luxembourg and through the heavily forested Ardennes, a region considered impossible for a large force to cross quickly, so the French left it mostly undefended. After the breakthrough, the German forces will head towards the English Channel near Abbeville to cut off the Allies. The invasion of the Low Countries begins. The French and British move their troops towards the centre part of Belgium and a part of Netherlands to give them maximum support, making a defensive line on the Seine River. Because of the strong attack of the Germany's forces, the Belgian defences were breached, and they had to retreat towards the defence line on the Seine River, alongside British and French troops. In the Netherlands, Germany met little to no resistance by finding a gap in the defences between the Belgium and Netherlands, cutting the Dutch troops off the main line. The Dutch were unable to resist, and they surrendered. In the south, Germany began the main offensive, running over Luxembourg and pushing into Belgium, reaching the French defences. They launched an attack towards the south, destroying the French defences. The French thought they want to outflank the Maginot Line by moving south, so they decided to deploy more troops towards that direction. Seeing that gap between the defences towards the west, the German tanks launched a massive attack into that direction. The Allies were caught off guard, but knew that this was their main and biggest attack, and began redeploying their troops towards that area. They also ordered the troops from Belgium to fall back and create a defence line closer to the sea. They did not know if the Germans wanted to head towards Paris or the English Channel, and they had to cover both flanks. However, the German tanks were moving much faster than they were expecting and did not have the time to prepare the defences and were only able to cover the Paris direction, but they did not have enough time to cover the route towards the English Channel. They resumed the attack with full strength, and without any Allies troops to defend, they reached the sea, encircling over 400,000 Allied troops. Unless an effective counterattack could be made, the only escape for Allied forces was by sea, through the ports of Boulogne, Calais, Dunkirk, and Ostend. An Allied counterattack at Arras was briefly successful, but failed because it had insufficient forces behind it. Otherwise, the tide could not be turned and the Allied forces were in disarray. They were unable to react quickly enough to reorganise against the much more rapidly evolving and responsive German attacks. By 26th May, all the French and Belgian ports north of the River Somme, apart from Dunkirk, had been captured. A large portion of the Allied troops were able to be rescued by the sea, but they would not be able to participate at the battle that will come next. With the pocket closed, the Germans turned their attention towards France. The France prepared defensive lines on the Somme and Aisne rivers. They wanted to inflict as many casualties as possible to the German army in the hope that they will run out of momentum. After preparing, the German attack came. At first, the French plan worked and Germany made little progress. But then the first breakthrough happened and the Germans were able to reach the river Seine. The west part of the army moved towards the sea and are able to cut off a part of the Allied forces. The centre force has joined the attack and made yet another breakthrough in the defensive line. The west part was also able to cross the river, and French lacked the troops to contain them. The French commanders were afraid that their troops were going to be encircled, and they ordered a retreat to make a stand on the Loire River. Paris was abandoned and fell. With the French on retreat, the Germans did not want to let them make another last stand, so they pushed deep into the French territory, and most of the French troops were caught or destroyed. With the biggest intact portion of the French army being behind the Maginot Line, they began heading towards east, cutting them off and encircling them. They pushed from every direction. In the centre, the French were able to reach the Loire River and make a stand, but they were not able to cover every crossing, and German troops crossed the river on the same day. The French continued to retreat. The German tanks were able to overrun the retreating forces in the north. On the east side, the Germans made the pocket smaller and smaller, and the French were unable to make a solid front against the stronger German army, so they surrendered. The French army was reduced so much, and the odds were so unfavourable, and surrendered. It's done. France has fallen. Hitler's Germany was able to do in less than 3 weeks what they couldn't do in 4 years in the First World War. After that, Hitler made a puppet regime naming it Vichy France. The Nazi regime will continue to dominate Europe for another 5 years, and they will draw their attention towards the Eastern Europe. Germany secured the Balkans and started the biggest land invasion in history. The invasion of USSR, but we will talk about that in another video.